from Athens to discuss the latest on the tensions between Greece and Turkey. Alexandra Voudouri is the foreign affairs editor at Macropolis.gr and Athina 9.84 FM. Kalimera, dear friend.
Günaydın, Isin.
It's been 3 weeks since we have last spoken with you on the issue, because at the time there was a small collision between the warships, Turkish and Greek. We have chosen the title, Is War a Real Possibility Between Greece and Turkey? Listening to our president here yesterday, I think it is still a relevant question from my side. He said, either they are going to understand the language of politics and diplomacy, or in the field, painful experiences. So it's kind of a threatening language. I should ask first, maybe, is the rhetoric similar in Greece as well?
No, Isin, the rhetoric is not the same in Greece. And in fact, the Prime Minister, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, is really calm, and he has avoided so far in replying to the rhetoric heard by not only Turkish President, excuse me, Mr. Erdogan, but by other officials. And if you can see, our officials do not reply in general to, excuse me, to the rhetoric and the statements made by Turkish officials. They're trying to reply either by public announcements or through leaks. This is a tactic of the Prime Minister, because he's certain that the two countries will end up into a dialogue, and he doesn't want to flame more the climate between the two sides. It's, I think it's a very good policy on behalf of Kyriakos Mitsotakis not to reply to these aggressive statements, because to be honest with you, up to a point, we could understand that that was a part of a tactic on behalf of the Turkish government. Now, this aggressiveness and these threats are also threatening UN conventions. I mean, clearly, when you threat a second party with even the use of force or violence, this is not very right, because, well, it is good for your audience, your public audience, but it's not good in terms of international law. Up to this point, Kyriakos Mitsotakis has tried not to reply publicly to the statements, and I think it's for the best. I mean, if they will end up eventually to the table, at least he would not have been engaged into statements that cannot be taken back afterwards.
It looks like you'd think there's an opening for dialogue on the Greek side, as I understand, but I should ask, what happened with the NATO General Secretary's first announcement? Because he changed his announcement later, but what was it that made Greece says that we are not talking to Turks, or what happened at that moment?
There has been indeed some confusion on Thursday when Jens Stoltenberg tweeted that he spoke with the leaders of Turkey and Greece. That was partly true, because it was not a matter of communication on that day, but it was a work that had been done some weeks ago when he called both Mr. Erdogan and Mr. Mitsotakis. What we have learned is that actually he called the military representatives of both countries, and he tabled a proposal to both sides. And Athens has, in principle, accepted the proposal to be examined first, but they told us from our sources that by receiving a proposal, it doesn't mean that you begin talks. You just need to examine these proposals, and then you can decide whether this could be a basis for talks. It seems, however, that some technical talks are currently taking place. The truth is somewhere in the middle. But there was a confusion regarding to whom Mr. Stoltenberg has spoken with. It wasn't a high level, at least these days, and that's why he changed his statement, and he said that I didn't have any communication with the leaders, and there is no agreement, but technical talks are currently on the way, are taking place, excuse me. We have to separate the NATO initiative from the European Union's initiative, because obviously NATO's talks are, as what Mr. Stoltenberg said, technical talks, and on his proposal about a mechanism that will help the two sides to prevent or a mechanism that will help both sides to diffuse tensions and to prevent incidents like the one that you've mentioned at the beginning that took place some weeks ago between two frigates. We have to separate these talks and this initiative on behalf of the North Atlantic Alliance from the initiative that is currently be taken again by Chancellor Angela Merkel.
So yeah, maybe it is to create an atmosphere for dialogue without having an incident on the field. Could I ask you, because the last time we spoke about the agreement between Greece and Egypt, which made Turkey furious, and you mentioned that it was an attempt to strengthen the hand of the Greek government before any talks happens. And in between, we had this time a decision to extend Greece's territorial waters along its western border coastline in Ionian Sea. Is it similar? Is it another attempt to strengthen? Because we see that it's a change in its attitude from the Greek side, because they didn't want to discuss both coastlines, I mean, in the east and west separately. But it shows that Greece now can do something separately for both sides. Just a second. I'll open up your mic.
If I understood well, you're asking me whether Greece is intending to extend its territorial waters in the Aegean Sea unilaterally?
No. But
whether the announcement of the extension of 12 nautical miles in the Ionian Sea was a message to Turkey?
Yeah.
Oh, well, first and foremost, this was a move that had been prepared by the previous government, by the Syriza government. If you remember well, Mr. Koutsias, when he left his office, he told the Greek public that I have already prepared the extension of the 12 nautical miles on the Ionian Sea, but Syriza's prime minister didn't actually proceed with this move because he had other problems at that time, and he wanted to be well prepared before deciding this move, which is a right of every state to extend its territorial waters when there is no other problem with neighboring countries. So as long as Greece had managed to sign an agreement with Italy, and as long as Albania has also extended its territorial waters to 12 nautical miles back in the 90s, I think this gave an opportunity to Greece to exercise a right of its own, but also to show not only to the public audience, but also to Turkey that it can solve differences through the international law, and it's using the international law to exercise a right. So yes, merely it was a message to Turkey as well, a clear message that by following the international law, Greece can also exercise its own rights.
Maybe it's, I thought actually, because before now, I thought the idea of partial extension of territorial waters for Greece was not on the agenda at all, because Greece thought that this could be used by Turkey against it. But now, doing this move on the western coast, so it gives also a room for Greek government for a dialogue with Turkey. Am I too optimistic? Could you elaborate?
No, actually, you're not too optimistic. You're actually very right. I mean, yes, by extending the territorial waters in the Ionian Sea, and with the agreements, especially with Italy in that matter, it gives room for a dialogue with Turkey as well, because it seems that Greece made the agreements both with Italy and Egypt, making compromises and leaving room for a final, at the same time leaving room for final solution with Turkey on the problematic parts of the Aegean. So yes, one message was that I'm using the international law so I can exercise my right. And secondly, I'm using international law because I want to close the open issues with my neighboring countries, and that also includes Turkey. Of course, it includes Turkey.
Last week we had a poll here in Turkey, and we see that the Turkish public really wants this problem to be solved with dialogue. Only 1/3 wanted find it necessary to use military means in that sense. I think you had a similar poll, which also maybe strengthens Mr. Mitsotakis' hand to go to the table to sit with the Turkish officials. What do you say? Could you comment?
Yes, it was the first public opinion after summer, and with this ongoing crisis with Turkey. And it seems that almost 70%, 68.8% of those that participate in this public opinion said yes to a dialogue as a means of diffusion of the tension with Turkey. And this is actually very remarkable. Taking into consideration the rhetoric that is being used by the media, the fear that exists over a warm incident, over even a war. The climate that has been created through the last couple of weeks is not very encouraging. And I'm using a diplomatic language right now. If you see the headlines in the Greek press are not helping at all. So I was really surprised that 68.8% of the Greeks are in favor of the dialogue, when in New Democracy, inside New Democracy, there are people who are not favoring the dialogue. So definitely helps the Prime Minister. And he's also, I have to also add here that he's enjoying the public support of even not New Democracy voters in this case. His party is 70 points ahead of Syriza party, so he's enjoying public support in general. So it's a very good opportunity for him, and it creates a positive climate if and when he decides to engage his government into a dialogue with Ankara.
Could I ask you about France's role here? In Turkey, it's a belief that France is also provoking Greece to behave like this. And also the Macron, France president, recently used a very harsh rhetoric against Turkey, speaking about red lines. And if those lines are crossed, he meant that he might use force in a way. I mean, because he said only Turkey only understands acts, not the words. So how do you think the relationship affects your government's decisions making in that sense?
Firstly, it's interesting to note that, yes, Mr. Macron is using this rhetoric and he's putting red lines, whereas the Greek government has not put any red line. I mean, of course, there is the message that we cannot enter into talks without the withdrawal of Rhetoric, the research vessel leaving our waters, or in general leaving the space before entering into talks. But if you can see, Greece, apart from this term, has not put any red lines, whereas Emmanuel Macron is putting red lines. Well, up to a point, the Greek government is satisfied with the support of France, but it doesn't identify itself with the policy of Emmanuel Macron in East Med. Obviously, France has its own interests. We have said that in our last conversation. And it's not only France in the area that is interesting in Eastern Mediterranean. It's also Italy and many other countries as well, apart from Germany. I think at this point, the Greek government is putting its bet on Germany's initiative. Because, as I said, and I clearly believe that the Prime Minister wants, in the end, to engage his government into a dialogue. And I think his bet is on the German side that will succeed in this. I don't know if I helped you with my answer, because as we have seen, he will not even buy the frigates that Emmanuel Macron was pushing for Greece to buy. He will, however, enhance the defense cooperation with France, buying some other frigates, but not the expensive ones that Paris was seeking to convince Greece to buy. So I clearly believe, and I'm not talking in the air, I have spoken to people close to the Prime Minister, and he's very, at this moment, and this week is really crucial, Isin, because we are expecting whether Turkey will extend once again the NAFTA regarding the researches of root race. I have information that there are serious diplomatic initiatives underway, and they will, especially the next few days, maybe Germany will make yet another move to bring the two sides into a form of a dialogue, just to see whether there are conditions for both sides to begin talks. And if you remember, Mr. Erdogan as well on Thursday clearly talked about the intention of Turkey to begin talks, and that he's ready for a Kazan policy, that everyone will win out of the situation. So we also have to read other statements by Turkish officials. So as far as I know, this week will be crucial. If there is no breakthrough through yet another initiative by Germany, I will be concerned. Let's see what will take place the next few days.
Alexandra, let's hope it will work, and our respective governments will come together and discuss this issue thoroughly.
Well, Isin, there is no other way. Let's imagine the worst scenario. We live in 2020. Greece is a country member of the European Union. It hasn't experienced any sort of war. Means the European Union itself has not experienced any kind of war in its soil. I'm not talking about the continent. I'm talking about the Union. These images are not. We are not familiar with images of wars or of a serious conflict. So that is why the European Union and Greece as well are seeking now ways to avoid all this. I don't want to think about the worst scenario. Of course, the government, I have to tell you this, that is getting prepared for all scenarios, but its aim and the aim of the European Union and particularly of Germany is to avoid the worst. So let's see what the new initiative of Germany will lead the next few days.
Exactly, and also both Turkish and Greek public want dialogue. So I hope in both countries the governments act responsibly and responsibly to this will of people.
I certainly hope so. We need rationale to prevail because there's no other way. Honestly, I have told you before, only through dialogue we can solve our problems. And if Greece and Turkey enter into this dialogue that has been for long avoided by both sides, will only benefit both, and not only both countries, but also the countries of the wider region.
Alexandra Voudouri, thank you very much. Hope to see you soon to talk about the dialogue.
I really hope that our next meeting will be about talks that would have already started between our two countries.
Thank you. Thank you.